Coming in at number 5, we have UN-271. The outer solar system is littered with big chunks of rock and ice, but rarely do their orbits bring them close enough to Earth for us to get a good look. And then, in 2014, UN-271, an approaching object that astronomers believe to be a huge comet on a million-year orbit around the Sun. In a few years, UN-271 might get close enough to put on a neat firework display. This mysterious object is currently 22 AU, or astronomical units, away from Earth. Just 1 AU is the average distance between the Earth and the Sun, and it's extremely difficult to spot comets before they get toward the inner solar system. Even being so large, it took years of observation and analysis to nail down its orbit and position, and could possibly be one of the largest comets ever to be seen. This comet is a large Oort cloud comet that was discovered by astronomers Pedro Bernardinelli and Gary Burstein in archival images from the Dark Energy Survey, and is commonly known as the Bernardinelli and Bernstein comet. More research has been done and further observations have narrowed down its size more precisely. A new analysis led by Bernardinelli and Bernstein themselves found that the comet nucleus is around 150 kilometers wide based on its brightness. If so, that makes it the largest comet ever discovered by quite a lot. Most are only a few kilometers to several dozen kilometers wide, while some particularly big ones like Hale-Bopp may be up to 80 kilometers wide. The previous record holder, Saryabhat's comet of 1729, has been estimated at about 100 kilometers wide. It is believed that by January 2031 it will be the closest it will ever be, and may even be able to be seen by the naked eye. Coming in at number 4, we have Salyut 7. Before the rise of the space age in 1957, the only things we had to worry about falling from space were meteors, asteroids, and the occasional comet. But today, satellites and spacecraft regularly launch into orbit and beyond, and sometimes they fall back to Earth. Salyut 7 was a space station in low Earth orbit from April 1982 to February 1991, and was a part of the Soviet Salyut program. Back in the day, it used to be the largest and most unique man-made creation to enter the Earth's atmosphere. Then, in February 1991, after 9 years in orbit, the Russian space station became one of the largest human-made objects to re-enter Earth's atmosphere. The space station was meant to stay up in orbit for many years. However, unexpectedly higher solar activity in the late 1980s and early 1990s increased atmospheric drag on the station and sped its orbital decay. Due to its low orbit, Soviet engineers attempted to guide its descent into the Atlantic Ocean, but their efforts failed. The speculation of where this massive craft would fall has triggered panic in one Russian village, which shut down its businesses and schools for fear of falling debris. After much speculation, the 88,000-pound station shed metal fragments over Capitan Bermudez in Argentina. People in Argentina reported seeing glowing trails in the sky, and it was also said the falling of the craft triggered a rain of fire in the sky. The Argentine news agency said blazing pieces of the Salyut 7 complex could be seen from several towns in the provinces of Cordoba, Buenos Aires, Mendoza, San Luis, Neuquén, and Chubut. Thankfully, no injuries were reported and many fragments were found throughout Argentina. There was actually a movie released in 2017 titled Salyut 7 that was loosely based on these true events from 1991 and other true events that happened with another Soviet Salyut program regarding the Soyuz T-13 mission. In at number 3, we have UFO in Brazil. A 110-pound mysterious large sphere was discovered in the northern Brazil in 2012. A 46-year-old man named Valdir Jose Mendez told police the sphere landed several meters from his house, leaving a 1-meter deep hole in the yard. He said, I quote, "I heard the noise and I went out to see what caused it. I thought it was a plane that had fallen or an earthquake." The noise scared Mendez so much he didn't even go outside to check it out. Eventually, curiosity got the better of him and he headed outside to find a cashew tree in his yard was snapped in half by a mysterious metal sphere laying in a hole nearby. 20 villagers along with Mendez helped extract this mystery object from the ground to further examine it, and it was hollow, and if shaken, some sort of liquid can be felt swishing inside. This mysterious object became a huge uproar in the community, and over 2,000 people came to see this UFO. Due to this being found in the year 2012, it was thought that this could be the beginning of the end of the world, and others think it was an alien craft. There have been many sightings of UFOs throughout history in Brazil, starting in 1947 and to this day. A meteorologist at the National Institute for Space Research stated he believes it is a piece from a satellite. Military police soon confiscated the sphere and took it to the barracks in nearby Mata Roma. They didn't specify what the UFO's possible future will be. In a statement, the Air Force Command said it does not have specialized structures to perform scientific research on this type of aerial phenomena, which prevents the institution to submit an opinion on these events. So we don't really know who is right in the situation or what this object really could be. In at number 2 we have space balls. The residents in southern Spain were stunned when numerous amounts of mysterious objects landed in their villages in 2015. The first ball was found in November by 2 shepherds in Calaspara. A second object was found a couple weeks after in Villavea, and just a few days after the second finding, yet another was found in Elda. After the first object was discovered, the Civil Guard initiated a CBRN protocol to check it out wearing a hazmat suit. The agents reported it was not an explosive device and was not dangerously radioactive. They then took the object away for further research. It appears that similar precautions were taken with the other 2 objects as well. It was reported that these objects were around 3 feet in diameter and weighed around 44 pounds. Concerns quickly started swirling from residents of these new findings, like where are these things coming from, why here, and will more fall? Many questions that could not be answered right away, but a spokesman from the Alicante police said it looks like a piece from an aerospace vehicle but not a commercial plane. It could be a piece of satellite or something similar. Falling space debris over populated areas are a risk for people on the ground. The Alicante airport is one of the busiest tourist destinations in Spain, with more than 10 million passengers per year. The Space Track website provides predictions of most upcoming re-entries of spacecrafts, as well as historical information, but it listed no re-entries that could explain the event in Spain. This was a clue that the object had been related to a military mission, which aren't revealed, so it made it harder to solve what these objects were or where exactly they came from. The mystery was solved by SATOPS, a network of amateur astronomers. According to SATOPS, the spheres found in Spain are, which stands for Composite Overwrapped Pressure Vessels (COPV) tanks from a Centaur rocket body, the upper stage of the Atlas V rocket, which had been launched on March 13, 2008 from Vandenberg. And finally, in at number 1 we have meteorites. Things fall from the sky all the time, but sometimes space can bring some of its components to our Earth. And cases of that is meteorites, which have been found all throughout the world. These space rocks are most easily recognized and recovered from desert regions, either hot like Arizona or cold like Antarctica. An estimated 25 million meteoroids, micrometeoroids, and other space debris enter Earth's atmosphere each day, which results in an estimated 15,000 tons of that material entering the atmosphere each year. Even though this is a massive number, most fall into the water that covers 70% of our planet's surface and are unfortunately never recovered. One that was recovered was in January of 2018, when pieces of a meteorite fell in Hamburg, Michigan, and these pieces were found in a frozen lake. After thoroughly analyzing the space rock, scientists announced that the meteorite contained thousands of organic compounds that had formed billions of years ago. The compounds date back to the early days of our solar system, meaning meteorites that crashed onto young Earth may have carried similar molecules. Back then, organic compounds from meteors could have been incorporated into primitive microbes, the team said, so studying the Michigan meteor can give us a glimpse into early life on the planet. Again in 2019, between the villages of La Palmera and Aguas Zacas in Costa Rica, an extraordinary discovery was made. A rainbow-colored space rock was found. Ongoing studies hint that the fireball may contain the chemical building blocks of life, the soft meteor nebula. That very nebula would later birth our solar system. The rainbow meteor contains complex carbon compounds, which may include amino acids, which can come together to form proteins and molecules like DNA. One of the largest meteorites found was in New York City in 1902 by a man named Ellis Hughes. It weighed a whopping 15.5 tons and 84 square feet long. This massive space rock now resides in the American Museum of Natural History. Don't be too worried that you may be hit with a meteorite though, because when rocks from space hurtle towards Earth, they burn up in the atmosphere before actually reaching us. That's why so many that are found are small fragments of a larger one.
Number 5 on this list is Chang'e. Chang'e is a massive legendary creature from China. This mythical creature is from space and has played a large part in it. Medium says, Chang'e is a creature depicted as a dog or a meteor in Chinese folklore that ate the moon or sun during an eclipse. Its name translates directly to heavenly dog, and in addition to eating celestial bodies, Chang'e was assigned to the task of guarding the gates of heaven. Chang'e's enormous size made him an obvious choice for the task. However, that same characteristic struck fear in the heart of humanity. So for this definition, Chang'e isn't too scary, but actually kind. However, he has been noted by some to actually have a taste for human children. This is just a rumor and could be proven false, but then again, nobody really knows any of these things for sure. What we do know is that this is a massive beast, literally bigger than planets, that has immense power and has come from space. If it didn't eat children and was a calm dog, that'd still be a pretty scary pup to come face to face with. Number 4 on this list is the jade rabbit. The jade rabbit is actually a full-on bunny rabbit who lives on the moon. Now, I'm gonna be honest, guys, this isn't the scariest of the bunch for sure. He's actually kind of cute, but I wanted to include him because his power is super cool. He lives on the moon with Chang'e, and together they make the elixir for immortality. Wei Yi Hong details the legend beautifully by saying, "One day the Jade Emperor decided that he wanted some help preparing the elixir of life for the immortals. Fearing that humans would be too selfish and untrustworthy for such an important role, he thought an animal would be better suited for this responsibility. The Jade Emperor came down to Earth disguised as a beggar and went to search for a worthy animal in the forest. As a famished and frail man, he cried out for help and food, and eventually 3 animals came to see if they could help: the monkey, the fox, and the rabbit. The animals were sympathetic to the old beggar's plight and went into the forest to search for food. The monkey returned laden with fruits he had gathered from up in the trees. The fox returned with some fish he had caught in a nearby stream. Despite searching throughout the forest, the rabbit could not find any food for the old man from the woodland floor. When he returned much later and saw the beggar sat next to the fire eating the fruits and the fish, the rabbit felt sad that he'd been unable to find him any food. Realizing that he could sacrifice himself so that the man could eat, the rabbit threw himself onto the fire in an ultimate act of selflessness. But at that instant, the beggar turned back into the Jade Emperor and stopped the rabbit from being burned. Having found the most noble of creatures to take on the role of creating elixirs, the Jade Emperor carried him up to the moon, where he learned to make divine medicines and he could be kept safe from humans wishing to steal the elixir of life. Every now and again, this mythical creature comes down to Earth to interact with humans. Although if it does come to you, then make sure you don't have a selfish bone in your body, or else it's gonna sense it and then bad things could befall you. Number 3 on this list is Cthulhu. Cthulhu is a creature that has come from the Lovecraftian universe. Even though this is a fictional character, many people have thought that there could be some serious legitimacy to Cthulhu, and maybe Lovecraft writings wasn't as fictional as we initially thought it was. Cthulhu is described as being a cosmic being of terrifying power and as the manifestation of chaos and destruction. Those are some pretty fearsome things to be associated with, and not a creature I really want to be messing around with. Cthulhu's appearance is definitely grotesque as well. Typically depicted as a dark green color, it has massive wings on its back, an octopus-like exterior, but with a body similar to a human, and also this massive bulbous sack thing that has huge tentacles coming out of it. Yeah, definitely not the type of dude that you'd want to bring to the club to wingman you. Cthulhu is a great old one, which is a super powerful being that has godlike abilities. Right now, this grotesque-looking beast is located at the bottom of the Pacific Ocean in what people believe to be a very deep slumber. This is good for all of humankind and the world in general, because having this beast wake up probably means full-on destruction of our planet. Cthulhu is thought to have the ability to communicate telepathically with human beings without being anywhere even close to them. In fact, deep worshippers of this ancient god have tried to experiment with ways to contact it. Even though it's in a deep slumber, its brain is still active and can talk with you if you're able to summon it. This is very difficult though, and only a few people have claimed to be successful. Let's pray that Cthulhu is happy with its nap right now, because waking it up would just be all types of bad. Number 2 on this list is Nidhogg. Nidhogg is probably a mythical creature who you haven't heard of, but let me warn you that he's very ferocious. Nidhogg is a massive and very dangerous dragon that is in Norse mythology. He's said to gnaw at the roots of Yggdrasil, the tree which supports the 9 worlds. Mythology.net says Nidhogg is a tremendous dragon. His body is covered in bright scales and horns erupt from his head. A pair of 4 legs complete with massive claws help him to rip at the roots of Yggdrasil, but he has no back legs, only a serpentine tail. Beneath his bat-like wings, he carries the corpses of criminals. His mammoth body can be found twisting through the roots of Yggdrasil, especially around Niflheimr, the cold world from which all the rivers of Midgard spring. Occasionally, he might slither into hell to visit the dark goddess who some some people consider his master. So in case you don't know, Niflheimr is a totally separate world from our own, and therefore Nidhogg is actually from space. This dragon doesn't just sit around looking menacing though, it's got a very important role to play in Norse mythology. Mythology.net goes on to say, balance is extremely important in Norse mythology, and while Nidhogg doesn't represent a ghastly force, he is still important to supporting the balance of Yggdrasil. A great eagle, who represents wisdom and virtue, perches in the uppermost branches of the tree, while Nidhogg, representing chaos and evil, lurks in its roots. The constant tension between the eagle and the dragon is fueled by Ratoskr, a squirrel who runs up and down the tree ferrying insults between the two enemies. The tension may seem undesirable, but it actually promotes a cycle of growth in the Tree of Life. After the eagle and the dragon spend the day destroying Yggdrasil in their frenzy to attack each other, the tree is bathed in water from the wells of Urd, which promotes healing and new growth. So basically everybody, if you believe in Norse mythology, then we can thank Nidhogg for helping to keep things afloat. He's also credited with punishing criminals though, and he's very brutal about it, so try not to piss him off. And finally, number 1 on this list is aliens. Well, this one seems pretty obvious, but if I didn't put it on the list, then I'd look like a freaking idiot. Aliens come from space. This is what makes them aliens. For centuries, in fact, even longer than that, humans have been looking up to the skies above and wondering if people or beings are up there chilling. And for quite a while now as well, there have been tons of sightings of these creatures, leading us to believe that there are in fact living creatures up there. In fact, at this point, it's pretty much common knowledge in the scientific community that there is life. I talked about it in a previous video on here that it's simply a numbers game. The universe being infinite means that there are literally billions and billions of galaxies with the potential to foster life. Therefore, it's actually super unlikely that there wouldn't be aliens. It also just makes way too much sense that they exist considering how many sightings that we've had. One super famous one is by Kenneth Arnold. Intelligencer says, Kenneth Arnold, a respected pilot, claimed in 1947 he'd seen 9 mostly flat objects whip past Mount Rainier at speeds he timed at 1,760 miles per hour. They were shaped like saucers, he reportedly explained, and were so thin I could barely see them. A neologism was born. Arnold, he demanded military personnel explain what the contraptions were if they knew, since he dismissed any possibility of them being guided missiles or new types of jets. His best guess, from another planet. Dozens of others came forward with similar sightings from as far away as Oklahoma and Arizona, but Arnold didn't enjoy his newfound celebrity. He said people had started shrieking in cafes when they saw him and fleeing. This is just one of the thousands of notable sightings that people have had about aliens in the past. They're definitely real, and they definitely come from space. Number 5 on this list is the Fermi Paradox. This one is all about aliens, but maybe not how you might expect. Science Focus says, in 1950, Enrico Fermi, the man who built the first nuclear reactor, was having lunch in the canteen of the Los Alamos Bomb Lab in New Mexico when he suddenly said, "Where is everybody?" Everyone around the table knew exactly what he meant. Decades later, Fermi's question was examined independently by the American physicists Michael Hart and Frank Tipler. Hart considered aliens spreading throughout our Milky Way, and Tipler considered self-replicating machines that, on arrival at a planetary system, exploit the resources to build 2 copies of themselves that continue voyaging. Both concluded that even at modest speeds of travel, every star in the galaxy would be visited in a fraction of the age of the Milky Way. As Fermi realized, the aliens should be here on Earth. They do not appear to be though. This became the Fermi Paradox. Hundreds of explanations have been proposed. They include the ideas that we are the first intelligence to arise in the galaxy and so are totally alone, and that we are a nursery world off limits to advanced civilizations that might adversely affect our development. A more mundane possibility is that there is no paradox because any signs of visitation in the distant past would be erased by wind, rain, and geological processes. Recently, however, a team led by Dr. Jonathan Carroll Nellenbach of the University of Rochester, New York, has proposed that our sun may simply have been bypassed by a wave of extraterrestrial expansion. So why are aliens not here? Have they already been here and we didn't even know? Or did they just bypass our solar system altogether? Or is all of this nonsense and the universe is just so big that they haven't gotten to us yet? It's certainly something interesting to think about. Considering the universe is infinite and there are so many places and planets we don't know about, it seems ridiculous to think that we're the only intelligent life or the first intelligent life in everything. Like, that's as if we hit the biggest lottery ever. Comment down below what you think about this alien question and why aren't they here yet? Number 4 on this list is dark matter. You've definitely heard the term dark matter get thrown around a bunch before, and you've probably wondered, what the heck is it? Well, if that sounds like you, then you aren't alone. Scientists all across the globe are still wondering what dark matter is and the purpose that it serves. Science Focus says dark matter gives out no light or too little light for us to detect. We know it exists because we see the effect of its gravity on the visible stars and galaxies. For instance, the Milky Way could not have dragged in enough matter to make its stars in the 13.82 billion years since the Big Bang without there being a lot of invisible matter whose extra gravity speeded things up. The European Space Agency's Planck satellite found that dark matter accounts for 26.8% of the mass energy of the universe compared with the 4.3% of normal atomic energy. It therefore outweighs the visible stars and galaxies by a factor of 6. Puzzlingly, no Earth-based experiment has found any evidence of dark matter despite decades of searching. It is conceivable that it's not our theory of matter that needs modification, but our theory of gravity. Or that dark matter is not a fluid made of a single particle, but is complex like the atomic matter we see around us. Maybe the universe is filled with dark stars and dark planets and dark life. There is an entire universe of dark matter that we don't even know about. Like, what the heck is this stuff and what's it composed of? Why can't our eyes see it? Why doesn't something this dense even show up? It's all very confusing and nobody can figure it out right now. Dark matter is one of the biggest mysteries in the universe, and understanding what it is and how it works could completely change our understanding of gravity and matter as a whole. Hopefully NASA can get a grasp on it soon and the mystery can finally be solved. Number 3 on this list is the central black hole. At the center of almost every single known galaxy in the universe, which there are about 2 trillion of, there is a huge black hole just chilling in the middle. These aren't your everyday typical black holes though, they are gargantuan in size and weight. Some of these beasts weigh around 50 billion times that of our sun. Just an absolutely insane number that our brains truly can't really comprehend. But how did this absolute unit of a black hole get there, and why is it so big? Well, NASA doesn't really know, and they are desperately trying to find out. Black holes are one of the most interesting things in our universe, and one of the things that we know very little about. The question of where does a black hole actually go to will probably never be answered because we'll never be able to go inside without getting completely crushed into oblivion. But figuring out why they're in the middle of pretty much every notable galaxy is important. If we can understand this, then we can understand how a galaxy is formed and potentially the lifespan of certain galaxies. Also, knowing what creates these black holes will help us better understand them and see if our planet will ever be at risk of such a disaster. Granted, maybe ignorance is bliss in this case, because even if we knew a black hole was coming, there's really nothing that we'd be able to do about it. Number 2 on this list is dark energy. For a long time, the only force that was thought to be operating on the entire universe was gravity. This was everywhere in the universe and decided pretty much how things played out. Gravity is not alone anymore though, or at least since the discovery of dark energy. Dark energy is this invisible force that is everywhere in the universe and is partially responsible for speeding up the expansion of said universe. Apparently this energy overtook gravity 5 billion years ago as the dominant force that's expanding the universe, and that's why it's happening in the first place. The thing is, we have no idea what this dark energy is or why it's here. Similar to dark matter, it feels like this has just appeared, and because we can't see it or have no idea of its origin, we have no idea how much weight it really has on us and our current laws of physics. Apparently 2/3 of the energy mass of the universe is made up of this stuff, and we have no idea about it. That's kind of scary if you think about it, and it puts in perspective how little we know about things. Oftentimes, I think we fall into a trap assuming that our species is far more advanced than it actually is, but when you consider that we have no idea where 2/3 of the energy mass in our universe came from, or what it is, it really brings you back to reality. I feel like this might be one of the hardest mysteries on this list to solve, and it's gonna take a while. And number 1 on this list is the multiverse. What seems to be the staple of a plotline of any good sci-fi movie these days is the multiverse. Something that we truly know nothing about. The theory is basically that there is an infinite number of universes with an infinite number of possibilities and outcomes, and it's all just freaking infinite and honestly kinda hurts my brain to think about for very long. But is there any substance to this theory? How will we be able to know if it's true or not, and what would that mean for us? So the multiverse theory all comes from another theory called inflation theory. Inflation theory is the thinking that in basically a second, when our universe was just a baby, everything started inflating and growing super fast, expanding outwards in all directions. Now, it's thought that the inflation of our universe stopped 14 billion years ago, but that when our universe stopped, the beginning of another started, and so on and so forth. It's very complicated, and in all honesty, I don't really understand all of it, but that's the bare bones. There's also the thinking that because life is so hard to support, as in you need so many things to go right in the universe, it seems extremely unlikely that if there is only one universe, life would have actually formed. If there were multiple or infinite universes, there would be enough chances though that one or more are bound to have the necessary things to create life. Either way, if this is true, then it obviously changes a lot of things about how we view our universe and the role we play in it. Maybe there's another version of you just chilling in a totally alternate universe right now, except instead of hands, you have wings or something. A little ridiculous, I know, but if universes are infinite, then you never know.